Imagine you found a Lego set for a classic car that you're dying to build. It's a 1970 Ferrari, a thing of beauty. But at the moment, it's just in a box full of pieces. Starting your running journey overweight feels similar. You're the builder and your body is the car. The potential is there, it's just going to take work. Each run is a piece of the set, slowly building towards something bigger. It takes time, effort, and patience, but slowly it starts to take shape. The individual pieces are replaced by a chassis. What started as a pile of plastic is now a beautiful piece of automated machinery. By heavier runners, we're not only referring to those that are slightly overweight, we're also talking about those that are coming from other sports, like rugby and American football, and even weightlifters. Running is not reserved for only those of a certain body type. It's really about being sensible and working with what you've got. Running is for everyone. You don't need to conform to a certain body type. You just need to be smart in your approach. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to get that Ferrari F12M built. In other words, I'm going to tell you exactly how you should be training and how to be successful. Basically, your top 3 automotive tools to turn yourself into a finely tuned Ferrari. I'll share one big component with you that is going to be the game changer for you as a heavier runner. But before we dive into the intricacies of training, let's peel back the layers and look at the essentials of training for a successful journey. For the heavier runner, having the right equipment is like ensuring your Ferrari has reliable brakes, suspension, and tires. Just like these components provide stability, control, and traction for the real Ferrari on the road, reliable shoes provide cushioning, stability, and traction for you as a runner. As a heavier runner, it's really important that you start out in the right pair of shoes. Don't go for the well-marketed branded shoes like the lightest, fastest shoes that you see advertised or to make a fashion statement. These are what are going to connect you to the road and also protect you from the impact forces of running. Make sure that you get a reliable, stable, and well-cushioned shoe so that you can start this journey in the right way. Furthermore, just as you wouldn't neglect the oil or overlook the maintenance of your transmission system if you were driving this 1970s Ferrari in real life, heavier runners shouldn't neglect their running attire. The clothing you choose is also important. It needs to be well-fitting and breathable. Too often, heavier runners are a little embarrassed about the way they look, so they tend to wear really oversized clothes or don't even get into running apparel at all. Unfortunately, this can lead to unnecessary things like excessive chafing and excessive heat. And when you are a heavier runner, you are going to perspire more anyway. And so the better clothing you can wear, the more comfortable, technical moisture wicking t-shirts and that sort of thing is really important. So make sure that you kit yourself out well from head to toe. In essence, having the correct equipment for a heavier runner is much like ensuring that your Ferrari has all the features to ensure a smooth and comfortable ride. This includes making use of things like anti-chafing creams and plasters in the areas that are catching and are uncomfortable, and very importantly, getting yourself training aids to help you monitor your training, something similar to a GPS device. That will help you be able to control your efforts and help you track them over time so that you can see how you are progressing to help you stay motivated. As a heavier runner, you may have a high sweat rate. This is not always the case, and it's also not abnormal for more typically shaped runners. This leads me to the second of 3 essentials that heavier runners need. Nutrition plays a key role, particularly at the start of your journey. Far too many heavier runners, when they start out with running, try to restrict their calories so that they can speed up the rate at which you lose weight. It's really important that you replace lost fluids during training and make sure those fluids include an electrolyte mass. I did mention that heavier runners tend to sweat more, and that means that you are losing more fluids, and the advice that you're going to find on the internet isn't always good enough for the heavier runner who's starting out. My advice to you would be to do a sweat test. So in other words, go out for a run that's an hour or longer, and then you weigh yourself before you go out for that run and take your weight when you get back from that run. That'll give you an idea how many fluids you are losing when you exercise. Don't worry, you don't have to pack them all in one go, but what you want to make sure is that you are replacing at least that amount of fluid as you are going through the day. A lot of people will restrict carbs. Now, that is your fuel for when you start out. Especially as a heavier runner, you are going to be going at a slightly higher intensity even when you are trying to run easy, and that is because of the increased eccentric forces. So don't starve yourself of carbohydrates. Those are your fuel to get you going. What is important if you do really need to lose some excess weight while you're on this journey is actually to go and see a dietitian so that you can get on a nutritional plan that will still provide enough nutrition for the exercise that you're doing, but will also help you to lose some of that excess weight. Now, before we look at exactly how you should start training as a heavier runner, let's have a look at how we can keep you running efficiently. And what I mean by that is, you need to have a look at how you physically start out running. Don't try in the early phases to worry too much about what pace you're running at, how long your strides are, or what your running form looks like. What is most important is that you need to try and run as easily as you can while actually being in a run, because we just want to keep you moving and keep you moving consistently, because the longer you stay on this journey, the more successful you're going to be. And by focusing on your intensity or trying to hit certain paces or trying to run in a specific way, you are going to increase your risk of getting those early beginner injuries like shin splints and knee pain. Before we get into the biggest contributor for running form anyway, let's dive into how you should be starting out as a heavier runner. Now, the most important thing is if you are starting right from the beginning, then we want to make sure that we start with small amounts and not too often. So that would look something along the lines of starting out with 10 to 15 minute runs every 2 to 3 days, and then slowly building up over time. Another really effective strategy is to say, I'm going to do 20 minutes of exercise, and that's going to involve a combination of running and walking. So I may start with 4 minutes of walking and 1 minute of running and repeat that 3 or 4 times, and then over a period of 3 to 4 weeks change that around to 4 minutes of running and 1 minute of walking. The real thing that you want to do is to start off really slow with moderate doses that you build up over time. You really do want to give yourself to recover from those sessions. So to ensure that you do that and follow a structure, I've actually put together a beginner plan which you can get in the description below. If you've been running for a while now and you're injury free and doing quite nicely, you may want to think about adding in some higher intensity sessions. Again, you want to be a little bit more careful as a heavier runner. The general principle is to do 80% of your training at a lower intensity or zone 2 type of training, and then 20% of your training should be at a higher intensity. As a heavier runner, I highly recommend doing 90% of your training at moderate to low intensities, and then only to do 10% of your training at anaerobic threshold or higher. So what does that mean? So your zone 2 or aerobic training is your much easier running, the running that you can do while holding a conversation. And you should be able to hold a fairly robust conversation, even though you'll feel fractionally out of breath, but you shouldn't have to feel like you've got to take breaks from the talking to continue. That'll give you your zone 2 training. That's your easy training. That develops your aerobic system and improves your body's ability to burn fat during exercise in the presence of oxygen. Once we start getting into exercise that's higher than that, you struggle to hold a conversation or can't hold a conversation. We are moving into anaerobic energy metabolism, and that uses much more carbs for energy. So particularly early on in your journey, you want to do a really large amount of training in zone 2 or aerobic so that we can also burn lots of fat. It also means you can exercise for a much longer period of time, and then we do these small doses of anaerobic training because they are also important in helping you develop as a runner. One more type of training that I'd like to mention before I get into the game changer specifically for you as a heavier runner, and that is cross training. I spoke earlier about how it's so important for you to recover between sessions, and particularly as a heavier runner, you do hit the ground harder, you do more damage to your muscles than lighter runners do. And that is where cross training can be so effective, because you can add in more cardiovascular exercise, which will help to improve your fitness and help you towards weight loss if that is one of your goals. And you can add it in between the running days or use it to space out your running days further. Cross training means things like cycling, rowing, the elliptigo, or even swimming. Those are typically called non-weight bearing cardiovascular exercises. They are exercises that still get your heart rate up, still burn fat, still improve your aerobic energy metabolism, but without doing the damage of the impact of running. This leads us to the component that's going to make the biggest difference to your training. The Ferrari F12M's engine was a beast. 449 kilowatts of power that drove it to 310 kilometers an hour. If it wasn't maintained properly, that would have a serious impact on both performance and reliability. Strength training is what enables your body to withstand the demands of running. Just as a finely tuned engine enhances power output, strength training enhances your ability to produce power and improves your biomechanical efficiency. It's like ensuring your body moves with precision and power. Just like the Ferrari's well-tuned engine propels the car forward smoothly. There are two reasons to do strength. The first one is fatigue resistance and injury prevention. By doing strength training, you actually improve the muscle's ability to resist fatigue. In other words, you can work for longer without the muscle getting tired. Similarly, as you get stronger, your muscles will hold your body in a better position. That is going to improve your biomechanics, which in the long run is going to mean that you're going to have a much lower risk of injury. And that also rolls us into the second reason why it's so important to do resistance training or strength training. And that is because when we improve our biomechanics and we improve our body's ability to withstand the impact forces of running, your body is held in a better place and the muscles are stronger, so you are now able to propel yourself forward without having to first stabilize, pull everything back into line, and then push up. So you are much more efficient step by step. Your muscles are stronger, so you can generate more force, and that allows you to also run faster and slightly further per step. Some good news for you is that in order to improve your strength, particularly at the start of this journey, you do not need to go to a gym. You can actually use your own body weight as a form of resistance, and you can do loads of exercises in your house that will allow you to get stronger and faster over time. The question many people ask is, okay, how many times do I need to do this? We like to do 2 to 3 sessions per week at Coach Parry, and the saying very simply is aim for 3 sessions per week. 2 sessions per week is better than 1, and 1 session of strength training per week is way better than none. And I would say as a heavier runner, strength training is actually a non-negotiable. So I'd really aim for a minimum of 2 strength sessions, particularly in the first 8 to 12 weeks of this journey. The next thing I always get asked is, okay, is Pilates and yoga strength training? The answer to that question is yes, but it isn't the type of strength training that I'm talking about. Yoga and Pilates are excellent forms of complementary strength training to go together with your strength, but we want you to do resistance training. As I said earlier, that doesn't mean that it has to involve weights. Your body weight will be good resistance too. The next question I always get asked is, does cross training count as strength training? And the answer to that is no. They are not the same thing. Cross training helps to increase your cardiovascular load at a lower risk, but strength training is essential in preparing your body for the forces of running, making sure you are highly injury resistant, and it improves your performance. Once you've got all the pieces together, There are only two ways to make your car go faster. One is to remove all the non-essential pieces, and running consistently will help you do that. The second is to increase your car's engine capacity. Watch this video next to learn a simple 3-step process to help you improve your body's engine capacity so that you can run faster and further.